Hello everyone. Today I want to share my biggest takeaways from Directive 3 through 7. My first takeaway from Directive 3 was that preparation is much more important than I used to think. Professor Smith kept saying, prepare, 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 and after listening to the whole directive, I understood why. The part that stood out to me most was the idea of purposeful neglect before this class. I had never heard that phrase. I like the story about the soldier and surgeon who started preparing for a 3-minute speech 6 months before he delivered it. At first, I thought that sounded a little crazy, but then I realized that successful people often do things that seem extreme to everyone else. This semester really made me understand that idea I was taking biology, statistics, counseling, and kinesiology at the same time. There were definitely days when I wanted to relax, scroll Instagram, watch TikTok, or do anything except homework. But when finals came, I had to focus. Hearing Professor Smith talk about purposeful neglect reminded me of those weeks. Sometimes we have to put distractions aside for a short period of time if we want a good result later. I also really like the part about exercise. Sports have been a big my part of my life for many years. I have even broken my left arm 3 times, but I always came back to training. So when Professor Smith talked about this speech team doing workouts at 6:30 in the morning and how exercise helped the win national competitions, that really connected with me. I was honestly not surprised when he said that exercise improves thinking and memory because I have experienced that myself. My biggest takeaway from Directive 4 was that an organized mind creates clear communication. This story about Marty Torres was probably one of the funniest and most memorable stories in all the directives. Imagine a professor looking at your speech and basically saying, "What is this?" I would probably feel embarrassed too. But that criticism ended up helping Professor Smith improve his communication skills for the for the rest of his life. I also love the spaghetti story. The girl started by saying, "It's soft, it's wet, it's warm." Then she threw spaghetti at the wall. I honestly laughed when I heard that, but also understood the lesson. If she had walked to the front of the room and simply said, "Today I'm going to talk about pasta," nobody would remember her. Almost 30 years later, Professor Smith still remembers that speech. Another things I learned from this directive is that outlines are actually useful. Before college, I often saw outlines as extra work, but after making my own outline for this class, I understand why structure matters. The instant structure makes it much easier for the audience to follow us ideas. It also helps the speaker stay organized and confident. My biggest takeaway from Directive 5 was that emotion and logic work best together. I really enjoyed the Omega watch story. To be honest, I thought it was kind of funny that the expensive watch kept breaking while the $20 Costco watch kept working. But the real lesson was much bigger than watches. Professor Smith explained that credibility comes from combining emotion and logic. I think that idea applies to almost everything. When I write discussion posts, talk to professors, or even explain something to friends, facts alone are usually not enough. At the same time, emotions alone are not enough either. People connect with stories, but they also want evidence. I like how he used research, the CEO quote, and his personal experience all together. That combination made his message stronger and helped him solve his problem. My biggest takeaway from Directive 6 was probably the most personal one for me. Professor Smith said the public speaking is 5% talent and 95% commitment. I really needed to hear that. English is not my first language, it's actually my third language. Sometimes I listen to native speakers and think they sound much more natural than I do. It's easy to feel nervous when recording videos for class. Because of that, I really like his message that success comes from practice, not talent. I also like the example about the CEO competition and the speaker who moved away from the podium. Everybody remembered him because he was willing to do something different. Another part that stood out to me was when Professor Smith talked about finding the happy faces in the audience and ignoring the negative ones. I think that advice is useful not only for public speaking but for life in general. There will always be people who are distracted, tired, or unhappy. We can control that. We can only focus on doing our best. My biggest takeaway from Directive 7 was to celebrate every opportunity to speak. I really enjoyed the stories about the Beatles and Bill Gates. What stood out to me was not their talent, but the amount of time they invested before becoming successful. The idea of 10,000 hours made me think about my own goals and how long it takes to become truly good at something. The story that stayed with me the most was the Bank of America employee. She volunteered to give a short presentation because nobody else wanted to do it. And one simple decision completely changed her career. That story made me think about why I am taking this class. I do not want to become a professional speaker. I want to become a nurse, but nurses communicate with patients, families, doctors, and coworkers every day. Good communication can open doors in almost any profession. If I had choose one message from all five directives, it would be probably be this opportunity matter, but preparation matter even more. We cannot always control what opportunities come into our lives, but we can control whether we are ready for them when they arrive. Professor Smith repeated the phrase, own the burden of your success through the directives. I think that was the main lesson connecting everything together: preparation, organization, credibility, commitment, and opportunity. All matter, but nobody can do those things for us. We have to do the work ourselves. Thank you.